And it is showtime. Welcome to Magic, Medicine, and Mysticism. For those who don't know me, I'm Dr. John Michael Salvato. I will be one of your hosts for our show tonight. And before we begin, let me just thank you in advance for liking and subscribing, clicking the notification bell if you don't want to miss any of our broadcasts. And thank you also for sharing these videos with anybody that you think might vibe with the message that we share. That really does help us to get the word out there. It helps us to grow our channel, and as we continue to roll the series out, it will also help us to attract and bring in better guests. And speaking of that, if you have a particular guest that you would like to see on the show, be sure to send them our way as well. Tell them to check us out on YouTube. You can see the web address for the YouTube channel here at the bottom of the screen. And so tonight, I'm really excited because as you may have noticed over the last several weeks, our co-hosts each week have been different members of the faculty of the Inner Alchemy Mystery School and the Inner Alchemy Collective, our social network. And so each week, we feature another one of our faculty members to talk a little bit about their practice. And then going forward, they're going to start bringing in some of their guests, some of the folks that they work with. So this just becomes like concentric circles, building upon the previous layer. And so tonight, if you've ever wished that there was somebody who had the expertise and the skillfulness of working as a green witch, as a kitchen witch, an herbalist, that you could ask questions of. Remember, this is a live and interactive show. And tonight we've got a guest who has just that type of expertise and more. And we'll get back to introducing you to him right after this. And welcome back. And Jim, welcome to the show.
Hello. How is everybody?
Doing well. And so, folks, remember, this is live and interactive. So if you've got any questions, the only thing we ask of you is that you try to keep them a little bit on the shorter side, because we can't really fit a paragraph long question. So break your questions up. If you have multiple questions, break them up. We would love to answer all of them, but we could put them up on the screen then and get some great feedback from Jim. But before we begin, Jim, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, what brought you to the esoteric and magical path, and then what has your experience been along the way? What are the traditions that you draw from, and types of magic that you engage in?
Sure. Well, a little bit about myself. I started on the path of mysticism when I was a young child. I was brought up by my Scottish and Irish Appalachian mammas, which many of you have already heard that story. But that altar was my mamma's kitchen table, and the privilege to learn alongside her the different family folk remedies as well as spirituality. Really instilled that beginning of my practice in myself. And that part of that spirituality and that practice also went into my formal training as a master herbalist. I attended Dr. Christopher's School of Natural Healing and became a master herbalist, as well as down the road a certified nutritionist. But that spirit, that herbal spirit, has continued to feed my conventional practice as a clinical herbalist as well.
Excellent. Hang on. I just realized that when I have full screen on, we lose my microphone. So you bring to the table this really broad understanding. And would it be fair to say that that not only from a clinical perspective that you bring that expertise, but also because some of these different modalities of natural healing and herbal healing have their roots in esoteric traditions from around the world. Has that informed your practice in any way?
Of course, the nuances of Western herbalism, unfortunately, they've divorced themselves in a lot of ways from the spirit of whole body medicine, body, mind, and spirit. And that has been preserved in methods that we respect, such as Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine. And what I have tried to do is incorporate that in a vitalist, herbalist point of view that I call the herbal ally path, and really match the plants up to the person based on the spiritual aspects as well. So not only are you harvesting plants, you're harvesting planets to work with the person.
And so you work with the spirit of the plant species itself and the spirit of the individual plant, or just one or the other?
Both. There is the individual spirit of the plant. When you're working with it in your garden and you're tending to it, but there's the overarching spirit of the plant species as well, and that's really what you tap into most of the time, is that um, overarching spirit of the plant species when you're working with the individuals, because your tincture is going to be from many different plants, your herbal medicine is going to be from many different plants, but certainly that personal practice working with individual plants in your garden definitely informs the medicine that you're preparing as well.
Well, I want to get to I want to talk a little bit more in depth about the consultative process that you have for working with folks who may be watching this either live or on the replay in a little bit. But what I would love to hear more about right now is something that I've had the privilege of seeing through our platform, through the Inner Alchemy Mystery School, where you're teaching two different courses that dovetail beautifully together. But we'll start with the one that just really, I know several of the other instructors commented on how incredible it was for them to hear from students that sort of aha moment after they had taken our course on Italian folk magic and Italian witchcraft, to hear somebody coming from an Appalachian magical tradition talk about the fact that the kitchen table is our altar, and that the kitchen stove is our cauldron, and so talk a little bit about the course that you teach on nourishing traditions, and what that entails, and what led you to put together such an incredible course that I think really kind of paves the way for people to understand that herbal ally approach.
Well, thank you for all the sincere compliments. I really appreciate that. To me, what I found as I've developed in my own practice of the craft and magic, as well as healing, is foundationally it's actions that put magic into being, and it's the little things that we do. It's and you mentioned in your course as well, our grandparents didn't necessarily say that they were a witch and they were over here practicing witchcraft, but they were over here doing a little thing. They did it under the auspices of my mama was a Pentecostal, an apostolic Pentecostal Christian, and she certainly wouldn't have called herself a witch. But she did those little things on the side, to exact change in her life. And the foundation of that truly was in the kitchen. And I talk a lot about the general role of the garden, and how our herbal allies in the kitchen can be not just medicine, but also healers of our emotions, and helpers in our day-to-day tasks. How those superstitions in our families that have been passed down have a basis in truth, and how they're important tidbits of information within those. How to build a kitchen altar and what that looks like, but also the importance of mindfulness while you're cooking. We can all pop a TV dinner in the microwave and be completely mindless in our food preparation, or we can prepare a natural meal and pay attention to the way that we select the food, how we chop it, how we prepare it, how we even down to how we stir with the wooden spoon. You know, that wooden spoon becomes the wand in our magic, and setting that intention and adding that mindfulness factor is really how we get the results.
And let's talk about that a little bit, because in addition to the fact that a microwave dinner would be anything but food in most of our, I think we both agree on that. This practice doesn't have to be something that's so complex that you have to study for years in order to be able to start putting it to work in your life. Of course, the longer you study and the longer that you practice, like anything else, your results are better, your experience is better. But give us a little example of just one way in which you can take that concept in preparing a mindful dish, and we'll give an example. Let me pick an example. Let's say that that your family is going through a stressful time, and so anxieties are running high, and we're in the midst of a global pandemic, so a lot of that stress happens, or maybe the family members are just finally getting on one another's last nerves. What's an example of something you could do in the kitchen that is literally both spellcraft and nourishing magic that a person could use to solve that problem?
Just pulling some different ideas for what you're talking about, stressful, dealing with everything that's going on in the world. A lavender lemon pound cake comes to mind, something simple, a dessert for the family. And I would start off something that my great grandmother used to do, which, a lot of people talk about, you need a certain color candle for this magic. My great grandmother would use butter like she would a candle, and you could use fancy sigils in it or just an English word, take a toothpick and write, calm, peace. There's 4 sides to a stick of butter: calm, peace, healthy, just communion, whatever words you think you need on that stick of butter. And when you're adding it to the dish, you're putting it in the oven to melt in a bowl. As it melts, you're instilling that energy and those ideas into the butter that you're adding to the lavender lemon pound cake, let's say. So as you're zesting the lemon, you are focusing on peace and love in the home. You can actually, say those words, peace, love, every time you grate that lemon into the dish. Flour, as you're sifting it, same idea. You're instilling these feelings, and then of course lavender, peace, calm. You're adding to that dish, but being mindful and not absent while you're preparing the food is more powerful than any of the ingredients. But you can do so much to instill, those words of power. And my grandmother with the butter is a perfect example. They called it a pashog, but it was used for healing. You could really use it any way that you would use a candle, but it's a very quick candle that you can add to the food. And making dessert for the family and offering it to them, is a peace offering in itself.
God, I love that
on that table, but that was just off the head. But
I love that. And in dessert, who's going to say no
exactly.
To dessert, where if you're maybe trying to incorporate lavender into another dish and you've got picky eaters, they might be a little less inclined. But when we see something beautiful in a lavender color on I'm just salivating, thinking, God, that would be really good with my coffee right now.
Okay. Recipe.
When you see that lavender on a pound cake, it seems perfectly natural and celebratory, and yeah, deeply calming. So I think that's a good segue into the next thing that I want to talk about, because you not only teach these classes and do private consultations and work as an herbalist, but you also have a practice in the House of Life Botanicals, where you have a broad range of services and goods that you bring to the table. Had I not been so eager to use your Witch of the Woods kit myself, I would have had the presence of mind to take a picture of it first, so that I could show everybody, because I was blown away just at the beauty, and so the aesthetic itself has a magical and healing feel to it, and then opening it and getting all of that aromatherapy, and then finally putting it to use. But tell us about the House of Life Botanicals and some of the things that you offer. And I'm going to go ahead and put your banner up on the screen.
We are a small apothecary, founded in 2016 by myself and my daughter. And what I really wanted to do was, a lot of herbalists and practitioners know how to go and grab the bottle off the shelf, and this is what works. But really put it into practice and make medicine, as well as things that will help others. Not in capsule form bought at the grocery store, but the opportunity to really instill mindfulness and intention into the medicine, which makes it more effective. And through that, we've come up with a lot of different body care products, as well as herbal themed and herbal ally based products, such as candles, hag candles, spell kits, things that also help with mind and spirit as well, and helps to exact change in our client's life.
And some amazing teas, I have to say. I'm enjoying a cup of that right now. And for folks that have any interest in maybe connecting with you to engage in a further dialogue, would the easiest way for them to reach you be at thehouseoflifebotanicals.com?
Yes, that would be the best place. Our wellness consultations, I call life sessions. And, years ago, I used to meet for a one-time consultation and then a follow-up in a few months. That doesn't give the support that I feel someone needs to really start moving in the right direction toward overall health. And these life sessions are really a way to make more powerful transformations. What I do is I really help to guide you one-on-one to find your herbal plant spirit allies that are going to help with the conditions that you're working with, and really help to find the root causes and provide the tools necessary for the body to heal itself. Because ultimately, that's what we do as natural practitioners, is provide the elements and the tools necessary for the body to heal.
And it's about establishing a relationship with you, and also that client establishing a relationship with their herbal allies, right?
Definitely. And that takes more time than just an hour sitting down together. So I really like to work in the life session setting. I have a package that is a 6 weeks package, and then a 3-month package. So depending on, if you have a short term or a more long lasting issue that you're dealing with, kind of determines how long we should work together. But everyone that I've ever worked with, it becomes a lifelong relationship as well. I'm always there.
Awesome. We've got a comment from one of our friends and viewers, Oceans of Love to you both. Happy full moon. Just finished his nightly Hecate devotions. We're glad you could join us, brother, for the broadcast tonight. And if you have any questions and you're watching the program live, please go ahead and put those in the comments. If you are watching on YouTube and you can't figure out how to do that, you have to be logged into YouTube. So if you're watching on your phone, log in through the YouTube app, and that'll allow you. If you're watching on your browser, just make sure that you're logged into your Gmail or your Google account. And we're going to go ahead and take a short break with a public service announcement from the Charter for Compassion. And when we get back, we're going to talk to Jim about the 9 Saxon herbs that he teaches in one of his other classes here at the Inner Alchemy Mystery School. And that's something that I found very fascinating. So if you've got any questions, go ahead and queue those up while our public service announcement is going on, and we'll be right back.
The principle of compassion lies at the heart of all religious, ethical, and spiritual traditions,
calling us always to treat all others as we wish to be treated ourselves.
Compassion impels us to work tirelessly to alleviate the suffering of our fellow creatures.
To dethrone ourselves from the center of our world and put another there.
To honor the inviolable sanctity of every single human being.
Treating everybody without exception.
With absolute justice, equity, and respect.
It is also necessary in both public and private life.
To refrain consistently and empathically from inflicting pain.
To act or speak violently out of spite, chauvinism, or self-interest.
To impoverish, exploit, or deny basic rights to anybody.
And to incite hatred by denigrating others, even our enemies.
Is a denial of our common humanity.
We acknowledge that we have failed to live compassionately.
And that some have even increased the sum of human misery in the name of religion.
We therefore call upon all men and women
to restore compassion
to the center of morality and religion.
To return to the ancient principle
that any interpretation of scripture
that breeds violence,
hatred, or disdain
is illegitimate.
To ensure that youth are given accurate and respectful information
about other traditions, religions, and cultures.
To encourage a positive appreciation of cultural
and religious diversity.
To cultivate
an informed empathy
with the suffering of all human beings,
even those
regarded as enemies.
We urgently need to make compassion a clear, luminous, and dynamic force in our polarized world.
Rooted in a principled determination to transcend selfishness.
Compassion can break down political, dogmatic, ideological, and religious boundaries.
Born of our deep interdependence, compassion is essential for human relationships and to a fulfilled humanity.
It is the path to enlightenment and indispensable in the creation of a just economy and a peaceful global community.
And we are back. So welcome if you're just tuning in to Magic, Medicine, and Mysticism. Our co-host and special guest tonight is Jim Sayers of the House of Life Botanicals. And Jim, before the break, we were talking a little bit about some of the courses that you offer at the Inner Alchemy Mystery School. And one of those courses is a course on the 9 heroic herbs of the Saxony tradition. Tell us a little bit about that. And for folks like me who, tuned in just wondering whether that was going to be, sort of a religious class or just a mythology class, only to find out that there was just so much substance there, so much to dig into, in really such a light, digestible course. Tell us about that and what people can look forward to finding in the course itself.
Sure. The 9 heroic herbs charm is something that I came across as I was studying how to really bring, the herbal ally way into, my practice of the craft as well as my practice of medicine. Growing up, I remember my great-grandmother actually sang the Psalms, different Psalms as she prepared herbal medicine and different prayers and things like that. And she would often use the same prayer as she prepared the herb as what she did when she put the salve on the wound or that. And what's fascinating is 1,000 years ago, we believe that a couple Christian monks wrote down the Germanic Anglo-Saxon tradition of what's called leechcraft. A leech was actually a word, an Old English word for a healer. And leechcraft, or a leech book, was the books that they had that wrote these down. And basically what they would do is, with each herb, there would be a set prayer or phrase that would be used with that herb as they cut it, as they prepared it, and as they applied it to the wound or to the patient. And that text was called the Lapnulga. Well, it was given that name. When it's compared to other writings, this particular one appears to be written down hastily, possibly by clergy who were tasked with preserving this knowledge and this wisdom, because they were going to be called upon to be the practitioners to their order. So it's quite fascinating. There's no organization. At the beginning of the book, there may be something for cough, and at the end of the book, there's something for cough. So it was just an attempt to write down those medicinal knowledge of the folk medicine of the Germanic people. So,
and my friends here locally, Erin says that this reminds her of her family's practices of powwow or brucherai medicine. So does that resonate with you? Is that from your background in Germanic traditions?
It definitely does. And what's fascinating is how that is preserved in so many different cultures, and how there's truths in. We have to remember that everyone's family was indigenous to somewhere at some point. So there's indigenous truths that show up in every culture the world over, and it's fascinating how they pop up.
So would it be fair? We're seeing all those interesting ingredients, folk names for herbs, the spell in Macbeth. Yeah. So would you say that the 9 heroic herbs is sort of almost a mindfulness practice in Wortcunning, a way of transmitting Wortcunning to the people?
Yes. There was a time that they truly believed that if the herb was not charged before it was given to the patient, that it wasn't going to be effective. And I have a firm foundation of that belief myself when I make my own products, that, I can certainly whip you up a salve really quickly, and it may be somewhat effective, but it's going to be so much more effective if I do it in a mindful way with the intention of your specific healing.
Right on. And you teach that in the Inner Alchemy School. You teach your course on nourishing traditions. Mm-hmm. And what other? I know you teach courses outside of the platform as well. What are some of the other courses that folks might want to connect with you on?
Sure. Locally, I am the chapter coordinator for Herbalists Without Borders, which is a nonprofit organization that goes into disenfranchised and lower income neighborhoods in the hopes of bringing the medicine to them, and teaching them how to take care of themselves, because they may not have access to modern medicine, unfortunately. And our biggest initiative as a group, I have the Herbal Allies chapter of Herbalists Without Borders here in Youngstown, Ohio, is we have a monthly class where we really dive into depth with one herb each month. So this past month we worked with chickweed, and we learned how to make chickweed pesto. So not only talking about medicine, but how we can support our nutritional intake as well by wild crafting, or finding what we would normally call weeds, but adding it into our diet as well. But that monthly class is a lot of fun.
Right on. And that's one that you used to do like live and in person, right?
Yes. We actually have gone back to live and in person starting this past month, of course, with all COVID protocols in place. But it's nice to see everybody's face and get together in person.
Oh, wonderful.
But looking at a way of getting all of those online as well.
And so you actually get to make and eat the dishes that you're focused on that particular month, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's an awesome idea. I'm so looking forward to being able to do that again. Our vaccines are still a week and a half, almost 2 weeks away, for Craig and myself. But folks, if you've got any other questions, we generally try to keep these to 30 to 45 minutes, depending on the amount of engagement and questions. And I know that this weekend was, I don't know how it was for you guys in Youngstown, but it was breathtakingly beautiful. So I have a feeling with the days staying light longer, some folks might still be out enjoying a weekend as we start to turn that corner from a year-long quarantine into small safe gatherings. So if you're watching this on the replay and you've got questions for Jim, please feel free to put them in the comments, and I'll bring them to his attention, and he'll be keeping an eye out. Anything that you would like to say to sort of just words of encouragement or words of wisdom from your tradition that folks can kind of tap into as a takeaway. We've got a comment here from Julie. Thank you, Kathy Joyner, for sharing Jim and this wonderful YouTube channel. Now I have to binge watch to catch up. That's what we love to hear. Julie, welcome. And yeah, you can check out the YouTube channel, and then be sure to go, as I was just about to go to put Jim's banner back up, go to the houseoflifebotanicals.com, check out some of the stuff that they've got there. I just can't speak highly enough about it. I know that it sounds like I gush week after week with our guests, but that's because the faculty at the Inner Alchemy Mystery School are phenomenal. And at the end of our broadcast tonight, we will put a screen up that lets you know how you could check out the Inner Alchemy Mystery School, absolutely risk-free. Poke around for a week, check out some of the courses that these incredible faculty members that I have the privilege of sharing that platform with are putting out there for folks. But Jim, what would you say if there were a couple big takeaways that your path, your personal path and personal practice has brought you, that you would offer as words of encouragement to those who might be listening?
I would say from my own personal path, the things that have grounded me the most in this life and helped to develop me as a person is first ancestral work. Many of us don't know our grandparents or our great-grandparents, but learning about them, reaching back, and if you don't have those traditions, learning those traditions from somebody else who may be more familiar or have had that passed on to them. And really grounding yourself in the work and the traditions of your ancestors. Another one is remembering that the plants are our ancestors as well. And just choosing one herb or plant a month to come into relationship with as a friend, not just as what can this plant do for you. You may not have garden space, but get out into the woods, out into the parks, and find an herb to work with. I'll also repost the video on the journey, the meditation journey to find an herbal ally. And that's a great way to find which herbal ally is calling to you, to really bring them into your awareness and to work with them over the course of the month. And that's really the beginning. If you don't have the garden space, you can always plant a garden in your inner temple, in your mind as well, and really work with those herbs. Most important is using the senses, smelling that herb, tasting that herb, and consuming it every day, whether it's as a tea or in your food, and really growing in a relationship with that herb.
Thank you so much for that. And I think that we did not rehearse this, but you brought up plants as our ancestors, and so I think that will be a topic for another entire show, because I know cross culturally, in the Ifa tradition, in the Italian tradition, in the Sicilian tradition, we often say that that were it not for the plants, we would not exist, that they are the oldest of our ancestors. And so I think that could very well be a show. Maybe I'm going to say this on camera so that I'm reminding myself. Maybe let's have you and me and Andrea and some of your other friends from the apothecary world on for a discussion about that, about how that truly is the almost the foundation of all of our magical experiences, that these oldest of our ancestors hold that wisdom that's often untapped, that's often locked within our memories, and how if you're watching this right now and you heard something that Jim say that just really kind of was an aha moment for you, be sure to put it in the comments below, and be aware of the fact that those aha moments are you remembering a truth that might have been lost, over generations. And so when you're remembering that, you're not just remembering for you, but you're remembering for generations of ancestors before you. You're healing your ancestral lineage. So Jim, I want to thank you so much for being on the program tonight. The comments are starting to come in. Have you got just a couple of minutes? There's just a couple more comments here. Aaron says, such powerful wisdom here. The ancestors, plant, animal, and human, are so present and so ready to help us reconnect. This was great. Thank you. And thank you, Aaron. And then Julie says, how do you decide which plants to begin with? Just an inner knowing. And so I'm going to add to Julie's question and say, is it possible that in the comments below tonight's broadcast, you might share that journey work video that you did? Because I thought that was a powerful way to do that.
For sure. I can definitely upload that link, as well as some supporting documents that you can use to journal with as well. And the best way is to, just think of an herb that you keep showing up in your life. A lot of times, it's an herb that you like the taste of, but that journey work is a great way to find which one wants to work with you as well.
All right. Well, Jim, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Guys, if you have not seen Jim's YouTube channel, or you haven't seen some of the courses, like I said, make sure you jump into the Inner Alchemy Mystery School and Collective. We're on, once a week, Jim has been sharing mindfulness meditations that have been absolutely one of my favorite ways of starting the week. And some great ideas, like this journey work idea, for folks to find out which herbal allies are there, present, ready to begin working with. So check out that information. We're going to put it up as we close out. But before we do, I just want to encourage you, as we do at the end of every one of these broadcasts, to stay in the moment, because that's where the power is. That unlocks the door to the abundance, the healing, the insight and wisdom that's waiting for you, and allows you to recognize that in this precious moment, you've got the capacity to open your heart, open your mind, to realize that the best is yet to come. Jim, thanks so much. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. Again, be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell, and share this with folks on social media that you think might vibe with this. And to some of our new viewers, thank you for tuning in as well. We'll see you guys next week. Actually, not next. We won't see you next week. Next week, we will be on a week's hiatus. It's Easter next Sunday. So we will be with you in 2 weeks, 2 weeks from tonight. We'll see you then.
Take care.